What's going on, guys? Stefan, S&E's Garage. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for watching. Please consider subscribing. If you're already subscribed, thanks for tuning in. Today we are here with the 2021 Camry, excuse me, TRD, which is equipped with the 2GR-FKS, which is a 3.5 liter V6 engine. This vehicle does use 0W20 oil, and Toyota recommends changing the oil on these every 10,000 miles. I am here to tell you that I am not going to be following that recommendation. The oil gets changed on my cars no matter what oil they take every 5,000 miles. I've always been that way. I'm always going to be that way. I'm sorry. So we got a little over 5,000 miles on this car. I did the first oil change at around 800 miles, so we're a little early, but we're going to go ahead and do it. That way, you know, our tire rotation and everything is still on schedule. So the oil's probably got 43, 44, 4,500 miles on it, somewhere thereabouts, and it still looks pretty clean. But it's still a relatively early oil change in this engine's history, and I want to get the rest of them break-in metals out of there sooner than later. So let's get started. I ended up going with Castrol Edge 0W20. I usually use Castrol Edge. I'll use Mobile One once in a while if it's on sale, but this is just what I grabbed. And I have an OEM Toyota oil filter, 04152-YZZA1. And then over here in my toolbox, it should be right in here, I also have original equipment Toyota crush washers. It's always important that you replace this. So we're going to go ahead and get this started. The first thing I do when I do an oil change, I usually won't have all this stuff on here. It's just me wanting to show you more or less how I do things or what I was using. But the first thing I'll do is I'll take this oil cap off and I'll stick it right here on my hood latch. That way I remember, hey Stefan, you didn't put oil in it yet. I'll even pull the dipstick out halfway just to remind myself, okay, there's no oil in it. Don't start it. And if for some reason I go to shut the hood without putting oil in it, I'm going to break the oil cap instead of ruining my engine. So now that I'm at this point, what we're basically going to do now is we're going to go ahead, we're going to set the car up on the jack, put some jack stands underneath it, and we're going to start draining the oil. Alright, so I did really quickly want to show you exactly where you should be jacking this car up from. If you come directly under the front of it, you'll see a little notch out here in the underbody shield. It'll look like a little oval, and here you have your front subframe. So right there is where you're going to want to jack the front of the car up from. So I'm going to get my jack under here. I'm going to put a piece of wood in between the jack and the subframe to prevent any scratching or marring of that, and we're going to go ahead and jack it up. Alright guys, so we got the car jacked up, and we got jack stands under both front corners. Now what I'll usually do here is I'll leave some tension on the jack as well, just so I have the two jack stands and the jack to fall back on. God forbid something happens. I don't want to die. So with that being said, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to slide a piece of cardboard under here to protect my floor, and I'm going to show you guys exactly what we need to do to change the oil and filter on a 2021 Toyota Camry TRD with the 2GR-FKS. So this video should be good for any 2018 to 2021 and so on and so forth, 22 if they're the same V6 Camry or any Toyota with this 3.5 liter engine. So let's get set up. Let me show you exactly what tools you're going to need. Alright guys, so you're going to need a 14mm wrench, open-ended, for the drain plug. You're going to need this special service tool. This is the oil filter socket. In order to get the oil filter off, you're going to need an extension to plug into said socket. You're going to need a flathead screwdriver for the push pins, and you're also going to need a 10mm to remove the underbody shield. So let's get under here, and I'm going to show you the underbody shield, which is this guy right here. So through here you'll see one 10mm. Behind here I just kind of pull this back. You'll see another 10mm. It's hidden by the shield here. You don't have to take this down, just pull it back and you'll see it. And then we have a push pin here, and a push pin there. And what I do with that last push pin, I leave that in and I spin this whole shield towards the other side of the car. That way I don't have to worry about taking it down. So let me get these 10 millimeters out and these 2 push pins, and I'm going to show you exactly what's next. So I'm going to try to do this one-handed. The easiest way here to get these push pins out is to use a flathead screwdriver, and you're going to want to kind of put it in here and pop out the center just like that. Once the center's out, you just pull and the push pin comes out. We're going to put that aside. I already got my 10 millimeter bolts out. So we're going to do this one last push pin here. Same thing, put it in its slot, kind of twist, pop that out. Now, like I said, I leave that last one in there, and I just kind of move this shield like this, and I move it over so that it's out of the way. It's still connected, and it's not on the ground. So here's our oil filter. This center piece right here is actually what you're going to use to drain the oil filter. We're not going to do that right now. We're going to loosen this 14 millimeter drain plug bolt on the oil pan, and we're going to go ahead and drain the oil. Now, while you're under here, you're going to want to just kind of inspect things, you know, check for leaks. Here's the lower oil pan. It is not leaking. The upper oil pan up here, it is not leaking. The trans is dry. There's no leaks at the bell housing, so that means my torque converter seal is good. My front pump seal is good, and the rear main seal is also in good shape, which is to be expected with a car with 5,000 miles on it. So let's crack this 14 millimeter drain plug loose, and let's make sure we get that crush washer off, and we're going to let the oil drain for, 20-25 minutes. I like to get a complete drain. I wait until it's dripping. You don't have to, but I just like to get all the oil out of the engine that I can. So let's get her draining. Alright guys, so here we are. Oil's draining into the catch pan. So we're just going to go ahead, let this bad boy drain. One thing I do want to make sure that I make you aware of is a lot of times the crush washer, as you see, will actually get stuck on the oil pan. So make sure you get that off and do not accidentally double these crush washers up, because that can cause some leaks, and you don't want leaks. So once this is done draining, I'm just going to use my flathead screwdriver, pop that off. That way we have a nice clean mating surface for my new drain plug gasket. Alright, so while we got the engine draining, we're going to go ahead and open up our oil filter. Here you're going to have the 2 O-rings. The one is for the main canister itself where the oil filter sits. The second one is for the little drain that I was showing you underneath there. You're going to set these aside. You don't need them yet. What you do need is this guy here. So we're going to pull that little cap off of the oil filter housing that I was showing you, and we're going to insert this up into there, and what this is going to do is allow the oil filter to drain. That way, when we pull the oil filter cup off, we don't make an absolute mess. So right now, the draining of the engine oil should be slowing to a trickle, which it is. So we're just going to slide this drain pan forward just enough to where it's still hitting the pan, but now the oil filter is going to be under that, and we're going to go ahead and break that little cap loose. Alright, so all you need to break this loose is a 3/8 drive, like so. You don't tighten this that much at all when you're actually doing this, so I made sure that this was nice and loose. So you're just going to pull this out. You might get a couple drips of oil like that. There's not really a whole lot there, and we're going to go ahead and insert that tool in there to let the oil filter drain. Again, there's an O-ring there. Make sure you take that out before you replace it, because if you don't, you'll have a mess. Alright, so this is just going to slide up into here like so. You kind of want to get it to click in like that, and it's going to allow the oil filter housing to drain. Like I said, that way when we pull it off, we don't make an absolute mess. So let's just let this continue draining till it's done, and we're going to pull the oil filter out. Alright guys, oil filter's done draining. I pulled the tool out, and you'll see that the O-ring actually came out with the tool, which is good. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to install that cap with the new O-ring, tighten that up, and then we're going to take the old oil filter out. So let me get that installed. I'll show you how to take the oil filter out. So I got this cap hand tightened. I just wanted to make sure I show you how little you have to tighten this. You literally, that's it. You just want to snug that up, no more. Because what happens is, if you over tighten that, the next time you go to change your oil, instead of being able to drain the canister, this will be seized to the canister itself, and you'll make the biggest mess imaginable when you do your next oil change. So at this point, we're gonna go ahead and remove this oil filter. We're gonna slip our tool on here, make sure it's on all the way. And this is another one that you don't tighten much at all. So this should come right out because I don't really tighten these much. There we go, just like that. So now we should be able to get this off relatively easy. My tool slipped off because I'm doing this with one hand. I usually don't do this, but it's for the YouTube. It's for you guys. Save you some money, have some fun working on your cars. And if you've noticed, I've had the engine oil draining this whole time to make sure that I get a full drain out of this thing. So we'll get to a point here, like right about now, that we don't even need this tool on here anymore. So we're gonna go ahead and take the tool off like so, and we're gonna pull this off the rest of the way by hand. Should come nice and easy. Now, like I said, we already drained this, so there shouldn't be any oil in it, just a little bit. Just drain that into here. And now we're gonna go ahead and pull this out, and we're going to remove our old oil filter, which this one actually looks really good. I always like to inspect it. You know, I'll pull some of the cleats apart like this. I'll check for metal. I don't see any, which is a good sign. I'll even look in here. I'll check that for metal. I don't see any. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to dispose of this. And then there's an O-ring on here that you need to change as well right there. So let me get this thrown out. Let me spray this out, clean it up. I'm going to use brake clean just to clean it out real nice. And we'll go over to the bench over there, and I'll show you how to change this O-ring. Alright guys, so we went ahead, let me zoom you out a little bit here, and clean this thing out real nice and clean. I took it outside, and I blasted it with some brake clean. So you'll see the inside of here is nice and clean. So what we're going to do now is replace this O-ring. You're just going to want to slip a flathead under there and work it off like that. Okay, so now that's the old one off. We're going to grab our new one. And this is important because I've seen guys at the dealership mess this up and then they have a major oil leak. You're going to want to make sure you put this in the right channel, which is this guy here. If you slip it into this top one, there's actually a thread that starts there. And what can happen is you can really screw this gasket up and cause a major leak. So always make sure you put it in the right channel. It's the bottommost one. So you're just going to go ahead and inspect this and it's going to be all right. So now the next step here is we're going to go ahead and install the filter element. And I'm going to do something that you don't have to do, but it's something that I do just to prevent what we in the industry like to call a dry start. I want this thing to build oil pressure as quickly as possible. I don't want to hear the chains rattle. I don't want to hear, you know, any noises. So what I do, I set my filter on the ground and I take my 1 quart bottle, because this thing takes right around 5.5 quarts, so you have to buy 6. So I'll take my 1 quart bottle and I'll open it. And what I'll do is I'll fill this oil filter with oil before I even put it in the car. And like I said, you don't have to do this, but when you do, you're helping your engine build oil pressure that much faster, because ordinarily what it would have to do is the oil pump would have to fill this oil filter completely with oil before the rest of the engine gets oil. And even though it only takes maybe 5 seconds, that's 5 seconds that the rest of your engine wasn't getting oil when it should. And in some cars you can actually hear them rattle a little bit while they're building oil pressure. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill this up, and then we're going to screw it in. You'll kind of see when it's full. You don't have to fill it all the way. You just want to, like I said, it's to prevent dry starts. You don't have to do this. Alright, so we got that full. Let me take you off the tripod we're going to get under the car and we're going to screw that back in. So now that we know this is filled with oil, we're going to want to handle it very carefully because we don't want to spill any oil. So we're just going to push this drain pan back over here so it's out of our way. We're going to grab our oil filter with our nice new O-ring and we're going to slide it into place and spin it on by hand. Notice I said by hand. You're going to feel it get a little tight. When it does, then you can grab your tool. You always want to start this by hand. It's plastic. You can really do some damage if you don't. So now we're just going to spin this. Let me zoom you out. You're way zoomed in. There we go. So now you're just going to spin this in until it stops. You don't have to go any further. And that's it. Nothing less, nothing more. We're going to take our cap off, and now we're going to go ahead and take our 14mm drain plug. We already went ahead and removed our old crush washer, so this is clean. You can take this, your rag, wipe it down, but we're going to get our 14mm wrench, and we're going to tighten that drain plug. Nice clean drain plug, nice new crush washer. We're going to go ahead, slide under here, find our hole, and like I said, everything start by hand. You're going to snug this all the way down by hand, and this is another one that you really don't have to kill. All you got to do is snug it up. You'll feel it right about there. I'm good with that. So now we can go ahead, get our drain pan out from under the car, bring our shield back over, and go ahead and start putting the underneath of this thing back together. Alright guys, shield's back in, our 2 10s and our 2 clips that we took out are in. I'm going to set you up on the tripod. We're going to fill her up. Now like I said, this thing takes somewhere in the neighborhood of 5.5 quarts, and we put about 1/4 quart into that oil filter. So I'm going to dump this whole 5-quart jug into the engine. We're going to start it up, make sure there's no leaks, lower the car down, and we're going to check the oil, and we're going to add as needed. So let's go ahead, open this up. We're going to pour in our liquid gold. Okay, like I said, that's our whole 5-quart jug. So now we're going to put the oil cap on. These oil caps are a little tricky sometimes. Just got to get it threaded right. There we go. Okay, put our dipstick down. We're going to fire it up, let it run for a second, check for leaks, lower it down, check the oil. We got no leaks, I'm gonna shut her down. All right, let me get this thing off the jacks, and we're gonna check the oil level. All right, let's pull the dipstick, check our oil, pull it out, wipe it, put it back in. Okay, and we're a little low. We're a little bit low, so I'm gonna go ahead, put another half quart in there. See where we're at. Right. Let's let that drain into the crankcase, pull it out, check it again. Still a little low. I'm just going to go ahead and put the rest of that bottle in there. Maybe not. I'll give it another splash. I don't want to overfill it. Overfilling is almost as bad as under. So I put 3/4 of a quart. So right now there's 5 3/4 of a quart in it, which is, I believe, right around what it takes. So let's check it one more time. And we're right on the money. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Oh, what am I doing? Let's reset the maintenance light real quick. I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. So now that we're done changing the oil, we're just going to go ahead and turn the ignition on. We're not going to start the car. You don't have to. And you're going to go into the vehicle settings, which are over here. It looks like a little cog. And you're going to scroll down to vehicle settings. You're going to click OK. And we're going to go ahead and look for scheduled maintenance. We're going to click OK, and we're going to reset that. Reset complete. The maintenance reminder is now reset, and that's it. You just changed the oil on your 2018 to 2022 Toyota Camry, or any other Toyota with the 2GR-FKS in it. So please, if this video helped you, like, share, subscribe. We'll see you next time.